I mean, I loved the notion of putting an African story on this type of scale. Like I'm from theater. I'm a playwright. I write about African stories and try to tell them in the Western context. Probably mostly do that, and so it's very much something that I love to see. Growing up as born in the U.S. but raised on the continent, to see African characters put on an epic platform is something that I was always really keen. You yearn for, because you're kind of in this other category, and you don't get to see people who look like you. Kind of get the type of grand treatment in a story that you see other people get. So to see this type of story get brought to light, and meeting with Ryan and hearing his vision, it was very much something that I was just extremely happy that it was happening at all. And then the fact that I could be a part of it as well was really amazing. It was an amazing script. I thought that it really brought to light beautiful components of women from the African context, of the power of this very unseen kingdom that, it's this sort of notion that I think a lot of folks who are from the continent love, which is the idea that we are actually allowed to see a country that prosperous, like the country that was not affected by all the, outside influences that came onto the continent and colonized it, and things that are massive wounds we still deal with. And to see one part of the continent that, is of course mythical, but what a beautiful myth, that it was a place that developed its own way, that just designed its own modernity and resulted in being the most technologically advanced country on the planet. I mean, that to me was so thrilling. Well, Okoye is the head of the Dora Milaje, and in the comic book, there's so many different renditions of how the Dora Milaje fall into all the different type Black Panther renditions you'll read. But in our rendition, which is really cool, it's these women are they're very much they've pledged their lives to the throne and to the maintenance of the security of the kingdom, and specifically of the throne. But also in the case of my character Okoye, who is the general of actually the armed forces as a whole and the head of his intel. So she's more than just say in the old renditions, the bodyguard. She's got a much more expansive role than that, and she's deeply involved with all the workings of what's going on in the kingdom. She knows everything. She reports to him. She makes decisions. She's very well known for her abilities as a soldier and as a leader, and that's been very cool to play. Her connection to T'Challa is very close. They're good friends. They've grown up around each other. She was definitely a young girl who stood out from a young age from the border tribe and was able to, of course, was being brought through the ranks and close by him. And so she's known him for a long time. So they're good friends. And she knows, like, you'll see the first scene you meet them you meet them both in the same scene at the same time. And they're very much, she's all up in his business, basically. So they have a great relationship. And I mean, right now, there is something that they're dealing with, which is the loss of his father. And so I think that's something that definitely affects her as well, because that's something that she's the head of the Dora Milaje. So the loss of a king is something that weighs hard on her heart as well. And so really she has a deep protection for T'Challa in how she functions. We went through a lot of stunt training. It was very, very interesting. We worked with some fantastic trainers for a good amount of time, and it was really beautiful the way the Dora have a sort of way of fighting that was sort of supposed to be inspired a little bit by just a way of moving as one, almost sometimes in a way that almost mimics something almost dancer-like, but not quite. And so there was a lot of very interesting formations that we created as when the Dora work together to take down somebody, like the fight we have with Killmonger. And there are very specific things that when my character makes a command, does something with her staff, we use staffs, which are like basically very, very sophisticated spears made out of our special metal vibranium. So we're able to do a lot with them. They're not, you look at them and like, oh, they just have a stick. No, it's not just a stick, which you'll learn shortly if you try and mess with it. So it was very cool. And we're able to find a beautiful grace in these women and also a ferocity. And I think that's a really great combination.